Okay, I think we're recording. So, do you want to briefly, because our first recording got lost, we had some technical difficulties. So, we are picking up with the lesson with the video.
Mhm.
Um, Basically, if I can encapsulate some of the things you said, Laurie, were the video was from last week that we're going to look at now. But today's Thursday. Tuesday, you had a terrible ride. Everything went to shit, and you went home crying, as we do.
Correct.
And
Yep.
then Wednesday, you came back ready to tackle some of the problems, but they weren't there because she had worked through whatever she had to work through. And Wednesday was the dream ride. And you also figured out how to change your contact that she needed you to have longer arms to give her the support, but shorter reins. So the shorter reins increased the amount of feel or resistance she was getting from you, but by keeping your arms long, the direction of force was still forward. Okay. And what we talked about briefly was just when you have a day where things go wrong, it can be part of the process of change because even a positive change in the horse is going to create the side effect of instability. And so we can play with our amount of resistance, being careful about our direction of resistance, but we can increase or decrease the amount of force we're giving to see does more help her bring her attention back into working on her body and stabilize her or less. And you'll know within a few minutes. You just try one, you
Mhm.
give less rein support, her focus and attention comes back to you away from the distraction, whatever the distraction is, and she starts to get her balance. Or if that doesn't work within less than 5 minutes, you start slowly increasing the amount of resistance until her brain is back in the game. And even if you play with more or less resistance, or maybe more rein, or more seat, or more of your legs, it still could be part of the process that they're going through. And if it is part of the process, it doesn't last longer than what you're describing. One bad ride, but the next ride is 180 degrees better.
Mhm.
Does that kind of sum up everything you were telling me, or do you want to add?
That is exactly what happened, and I would add, it was more resistance than I thought it would take.
Ah,
It was more I wasn't offering enough support, which in our case was more resistance, keeping resistance being keeping the the forward feel,
right.
managing the force correctly. And you talked earlier about magnitude. I had to bring it up. It wasn't a strength pulling issue, but I definitely had to match the force that was required, which was more than I thought.
Yeah. Which is an interesting point for every single rider because we all come into the ride with our idea of what we would call heavy or light.
Right.
There's a subjectiveness to that.
Great.
And what the horse tells us is it might be heavier than we think it
Right.
should be, or that we're personally comfortable with, right? And that's why
Right.
paying attention to the direction of force, the verticality of your body, the forward and up directions, resisting everything that is left, right, backwards, or down. Because when you shorten the rein, but you keep your arm forward as long as possible, you can increase the magnitude of resistance, the magnitude of force that you're giving in resistance. And a lot of times when the horse is getting distracted and they're joining the neighborhood watch with whatever's going on and they can't focus and this little thing over there just created a big problem, it's a lot of times because we're offering the aid but not enough resistant force within the aid to get the job done. to help them either stabilize or make the change that we're looking for.
Right. That perfectly describes what happened.
Okay, so now let me try. I should have tried sharing the screen first because that's where all of our problems began last time. But it looks
So
like,
let's go to the second video first, and maybe that's the only one we look at.
okay,
But last night's, I wish I had a video of last night's because that's where, ooh, that was good.
this is it.
Yep, that's it.
And was this a different day than the one before?
Yes, the one before, which was on the 5th of October. This is taken on the 9th. Was the week of, yeah, this is, I think, the 9th.
Okay. So here, and let me, oh, hang on, it's in blue. Change it to white. Okay, so you see my mouse.
Mhm.
Here was what I was talking about with your back. And has that changed since you have gotten the injection in your back?
I'm trying to think, when did I have the injection? Oh, that would have been, no, because I had my injection on the 7th, and I think this is on the 9th.
Yes. Okay. So this is where you could just ease up a little. And I know she's pulling on you, but do you see how your center of gravity is low, which is good. Your point of balance is low. You're
Mhm.
very equal and even. But
Mhm.
the little bit of contraction through the arms, and this might have been what you switched because your reins are long, which is making your arms shorter.
Shorter and going backwards.
Right. But if you look a little bit in the back, that might be related to you keeping your arms too short, the reins too long. But this could just soften a little bit, and you would probably get more information from her hindquarter and what's going on behind you.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll just there and there. You see
Oh,
the
that's, oh, yeah. Yeah, that's good. Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
And then let me erase those. I'm getting better with the tools.
Oh, that
The
was
highlight tool is the best, but it's not always the easiest to find. Okay. Oops.
there you go.
Okay, that's great. So here she's still struggling with like there, the distraction creates the problem. But for the most part, you look really even, really stable. Oops, let me pause there and go back just a hair. Okay, so here, this is the opposite side of your back. I think you're overusing the back muscles and underusing here in the ab muscles.
Okay.
So again, if I use those little hearts right here at the top of the ab muscles,
Yes.
you see where it's, if I erase that heart, hang on, it's just a tiny bit collapsed.
Collapsed. Yep. Like at the sternum, right?
Below the sternum.
Below the sternum, it's collapsed. Okay.
So it's actually technically right at the xiphoid process.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Below the sternum.
Okay.
So here, this little bit of collapse is you're using the lower abs a lot, and the upper abs you want to use as much as the lower. So that's why you're having to overwork in your back, where we went back and I put the hearts before. That's exactly the opposite side of your body from here. So what I would do is find your inner six pack, right? And there, if you're overusing the back, you'll start pulling your front so far back that you'll collapse right there. And so it's at the upper abdominal wall. Your lower abs are doing a great job. So kind of where your pants are at the bottom of your shirt, you look really engaged, really level, controlling the pelvis, controlling the lumbar. But where you look over contracted, and we'll pause again when I see it, in the back muscles are overworking, and here is not working enough.
So what I struggled with in this video, as opposed to last night, because as I mentioned to you earlier, Bob was watching me the whole time, and that would cause me to, you can't really see it obviously, but to do that would also cause me a little bit too back on my pockets, right? Like to be a little bit back.
Yes, and that's what you're doing, is staying off your pockets almost exclusively with your back muscles.
Right. Okay, I get it.
So if I go back a little to where we could see your back more clearly here.
Yeah.
See how hard that's working?
Yes, I get it. Yeah.
And so you're bracing yourself forward.
Right.
So you're not really back on your pockets.
But
I think what you're doing is having to contract so much here in your kind of mid back.
yeah. Which is, I guess, I was thinking back on my pockets, but it's still keeping my feet, my lower leg forward. By doing this?
Or I think it's actually not as much related to your legs as it might create a stiffening in the legs, but I think what's happening is it's making you work too hard up here.
Okay.
Right? And so it comes out through your arms. So what you discovered to make your arms longer, because here your elbows are even going behind the hip joint. You see that?
Yep.
And you're working really hard in here.
Yep.
So let me.
And that makes sense. That makes sense. And it's good to look at this ride compared to last night, because it is different. It's just, it's different.
Yeah, so you see here, if we keep watching that as you move, right? As you move, you'll see it creates a tiny bit of instability in your upper body, because, and it again could have to do your I mean, get this here, your elbows are behind the hip joint.
Yeah.
So even just holding your own arms up is, and it's because the reins here are too long.
Yep.
Right.
Right.
So
yeah,
kind of watch that as you come around on this turn. You see the arms go back because the reins are too long, and you're just trying to keep a contact. And there you can really see, oh, shoot, I couldn't hit the pause fast enough. Like right from here, there was one spot there. You can see the relationship.
Yeah.
Right?
Right there.
Yeah. So there, where you're not using your upper abdominals, you're kind of overusing the shoulders and overusing kind of the mid back muscles, because you need your lumbar. Like that's part of, you're using the lower abdominals really well to flatten the lumbar, but almost so much that all that energy is just going into your back. So then if we play, let me play a little bit more. You see how that makes your upper body just a tiny bit unsteady. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So right there, and as it passes, you see that relationship of the front collapsing and the back working pretty hard.
Yes.
You see that?
Yes.
And that I think is related, like I think it's related to this tiny bit of tightness through your shoulders and arms, because you're not supporting yourself at the bottom, at sort of where the rib cage comes together, just at the sternum. you almost want to feel like that pushes outward. Right now it's going inward. You see that? But your lower abs and glutes and all of that is working like crazy. And
That's correct.
you're not leaning back, you're controlling the lean back, but you're doing it in kind of a difficult way where you could, as you come around again, you see that relationship. The front of your body is not working, so the back is overworking.
Collapsing, yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Part of it is when we try to be soft through the arms, we can collapse right there. It's kind of where the solar plexus is, right? So with your fingers on that part of your body right now, you'll feel if you sort of push that outward, you can balance that with the engagement of your lower abs. So I like oops, I missed it. I'll find another when it comes around. But just there, as you came around, if you imagine or find your inner beautiful six pack of abdominal muscles, you're disengaging the upper right there, and you're really engaging the lower, but almost at the expense of the upper abdominal wall. So you want to engage the entire abdominal wall, and then your shoulders will kind of relax downward. And so let me pause this here a second and stop my screen share to make sure you've got this. So if, like, I'll try to show it on me, okay? So here where we collapse, right? So
Yeah.
I do that on purpose with female riders to find your lower abdominal muscles. Because when we collapse a little bit here and drop the sternum, you can really engage the lower abs and straighten the lumbar, right? So then you want to think, put your finger here and really collapse it. Yeah, more, really slouch. There. Now feel how you can engage the lower abs below the belly button and go straight up to the other finger. So what you're going to feel like is your rib cage pushes outward, right? So you want to push like that, where you're collapsing here. Use your muscles to push, but not to the point that you arch the lumbar. Where is that balance? So you can put one hand here, one finger just there at the xiphoid process, and one on your lumbar behind you. And as you sort of play with imagining your riding position, you'll feel if you push out too much here, that shoulders back, you'll arch your lumbar.
Right.
Okay? But if you collapse here, your lumbar is nice and straight, but it puts you too far back on your pelvis.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So what you're doing is you're using the back muscles around the lower thoracic to kind of get your seat bones forward, but you're not engaging these muscles here. So if you put your hand on your low back, start to play with engaging, find that inner six pack, it's in there somewhere, and think of engaging the entire abdominal wall here, right? So our abdominal muscles come all the way up to the bottom of the rib cage.
Well, that's a lot of work.
Yeah. So feel how much can I push the upper abdominals, which is engaging them? How much can I engage the upper abdominals and the lower abdominals as one unit? Right? Then you won't overdo the upper, which contracts your lumbar. What you'll do is you'll just find that balance. Yeah. So you find the balance between straighten the lumbar first, because that's the most difficult.
Okay. Yep.
And do it from a slouch so you don't involve the sternum. Yeah. So when you slouch, feel how your shoulders let go, your arms get soft, but we collapse here. Right? So without activating anything up here, you still want to feel your sternum is coming downward and inward in your body, but you're going to put your shoulders back through your upper abs. And see, it's not a big effort. You just gently feel the wall of abdominal muscles activated. Yeah, you're almost trying too hard because now you're lifting the sternum.
Okay.
So let the sternum drop, kind of look at the computer because we don't always know what it feels like. Yep. Let your sternum really sink there. Now, just where your index finger is on your upper abs, how could you just there begin to straighten the wall of abdominal muscles? Take a breath out so you don't do it through the sternum.
Right.
Right? So let the sternum drop again. Slouch. Yeah. Now unslouch really slowly. You're basically going to feel like your shoulders move. How do I want to say? Your shoulders sort of uncurl, but they never lift. They actually feel like they go downward if you do it correctly. Yeah. Relax the sternum again, drop the shoulders. Yeah. So what you need to separate is the feeling of your shoulders and your chest going down, and think of around the rib cage, we call it our trunk, right? So what might be more helpful is if you think of expanding the trunk in all directions, blow it out like a tree trunk. And then yeah, like that. How does that feel?
Not as much work
Okay, as your back.
as, right. And as before, when I was trying to do it, yeah, not as much work.
And so stay there with the tree trunk feeling, kind of pushing.
Yeah.
It's an engagement of the lower abs, but when we first learn to control the lumbar and the pelvis, sometimes we overdo the contraction of the lower abs. So just let that contraction and that work, that gentle engagement, come from the lower abs all the way up the six pack. Yeah. And let it be easy. So your shoulders could even hang more without, yeah, like that. And you're not collapsing here. You feel that? So how much can you push your shoulders down and breathe out without letting this go? So, and that's all it is. It's a balance in our body. Yeah. Let the shoulders and chest relax even more.
Yeah, because I felt a complete difference in last night's ride that was so much better with how I kind of engaged my body differently.
Yes.
That worked. It worked beautifully. Whatever I did, it worked because.
And so now also play with, and I'll put my screen down, the hands on the table.
Yeah.
Right? And feel how forward your arms can go when you're thinking up and down by expanding or engaging the abdominal wall.
Right.
Right? So where you had a hole in the wall. Oh, I'm doing the head tilt thing again. It's making me crazy. Okay. So where you had, and I know I did this too because we're really trying to find that forward feel in our arm, right? So it might help if you put your hands on the table and gently lengthen your arm muscles so your fingertips are gently pushing forward. And then here I'm a little bit collapsed. So with my arms going that direction forward, how could I use all my core muscles? So you don't want to overuse the back or the abs. You want to feel it equalize. So to me, it feels like I rounded my trunk. I imagine a big tree trunk, really solid. And I just sort of round out my trunk. And then my hands and arms are still forward. If I overdo it with my back, I can create a backwards feel through my fingertips, right? Or if I collapse, okay, my fingertips push forward, but I'm really struggling with other muscles to find my stability. Yeah. And see, now all across here, you look different.
Yeah, I totally see what you're saying
Yeah.
about the lower the lower part, because I was concentrating so much on the sternum area, I think, like too much, and like separating the two, kind of separating and doing this.
Yes. And so for women, let me share the screen again. But for women, anything below the bottom of our bra strap is where we work hard. Anything above that xiphoid process, or that kind of the bottom of the bra strap, right? Anything from here up should feel loose like the branches of the tree, supported by the trunk here. That's how women have to do it, right? So we work, but we can't only work from the pelvis or the waistline down. It has to come up to here, where we support ourselves muscularly. That allows the freedom of the arms all the way through the scapula, collarbones, sternum, all of that. You feel the difference?
Yeah.
Because even sitting there, your shoulders look softer. And again, it's just like what we're looking for with the horse. If the pelvis and the lumbar thoracic spine, which is your rib cage, right? If that's not supporting us, we can't be free in the upper limbs, the neck and head. And so the way you were using yourself is just creating, it's really hard for you to manage. Oh, where'd my movie go? It's hard for you to manage your stability that way.
Right.
So I'm reopening it.
Okay.
Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay. So we'll just kind of let it play again. But now can you see what I'm talking about, where you're struggling a little bit with the Rein contact and the stability through your body? You're working so hard through your back.
Right. Right.
You're very level and you're controlling that you're not falling back. But all of that effort is making you almost look a little hunchy forward, rather than supported in the front part of your body. Like you see as you come through there, the difference in the front half of your torso muscles and the back half. You're very soft through your shoulders and sternum. So that's why you're doing that. But your support for your stability needs to come equalized between the back muscles and the wall of abdominal muscles. So then if I look at her, that tiny bit of, like, you might find your upper body can be more freely forward. You're absolutely right. Looking at this video, which was taken before your epiphany, your reins could be a lot shorter in order to keep your arms a lot longer. And then what you'll feel is when she pulls on you, what I noticed is if I contract my arms, I can't keep my abdominal wall engaged. It kind of gives either at the top or the bottom. And so if you think of really keeping your back and your abdominal wall engaged when she pulls on you, you'll be able to hold the reins without any backwards feel whatsoever. You won't struggle with the little bit of pulling contest. And when I looked at both of these videos, what I really liked is she's mostly there. She's very gentle about playing with sort of releasing that contraction through her neck and back. Like, okay, there she wants to go back to it. You figured out it was the left shoulder, even though you're tracking right. You addressed it. You got it right back. It'll be quicker for you to detect that on a more subtle level when you're slightly more supported in your torso muscularly and your arms are longer, range shorter. So a stronger contact, but not shorter arms.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And you're gonna feel that. You're gonna feel, because she does it almost every time at this particular point of the turn, she falls out through the left shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you address it, you feel it, but you could do that a little quicker.
Yeah.
Keep her in that lengthened place. Yeah. But you see, she's genuinely lengthening the neck which means that's going right through her back and her top line. All of those areas she's been chronically contracted from,
Mhm.
habitual extension. And she's
Right.
doing it very carefully. Part of what you're dealing with, like there, okay, you could correct it. You're getting to it. It's just with a little more support from your abs, longer arms, shorter range, you would get to it a tiny hair faster.
After. Mhm.
But she's very carefully not letting go of so much muscle that she feels unstable. She's very gingerly sort of playing with that idea of letting go of the muscular contraction for her stability. And if this was the ride before everything went to shit, then probably on the ride where she was really worried, she was finally starting to find a deeper layer of letting go of that muscular contraction.
Mhm.
And then the ride after that, you said nose on the ground, no problem. You had steering, she stayed in length,
I had
everything went
halt. Yeah.
right,
You didn't charge the gate one time.
right. And all of that stuff that we blame on the environment or the habit, it's like she's just telling us, I need a different kind of support today.
Mhm.
And maybe the emphasis of your support is simply on stability, which will involve straightness. But the stability factor is huge as they change, because when they really, really change, there's going to be inherent instability in that transition. And they get very insecure, just like we do. If we feel unstable in our bodies, it makes us hyper alert and fearful.
Right. Right.
So that's what she was doing on the day. Okay, there was a soccer match, but that was really not the biggest deal going on.
No, because she finds something every day. I
Right,
mean, it's not this, she finds something every single day, every ride.
right.
Yeah.
And whether it's mental, emotional, or physical, every time she's not got her ears on you,
Right.
every time she's not concentrating, she goes back
Right.
to extension. So it's a
Right.
little like it's chicken and egg. Did the loss of balance make her look around, or did she look around and lose her balance? It doesn't matter,
Right.
right? So the sooner you step in with the resistance to the misuse, she's going to tell you how much. And that was the same thing we talked about in your last lesson, which is why you had to go to a stronger rein one at a time, left and right, was because the rein aid you were giving wasn't getting the job done.
Right.
And she was saying, I need more than that to make a change. And so that's where, when we have the concept, we want them to be light. Yes, we do. And all horses in balance become light. But that doesn't mean it's light on the way there. Like if she really, like there, right there where she really braces her neck,
Yes.
you tentatively step in and give her resistance.
Right.
And it was just enough to get the job done, but she was showing you muscularly what she needed.
Yeah.
Right. So if we're a little tentative or we're late because we don't feel it, like there, I would be increasing the left rein
Yeah.
resistance
Yeah. Yeah.
a
Yep.
lot, a lot, a lot,
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
But what I'm seeing in the videos, and the reason you're not having to take that sort of jackknife approach and really bend the neck, is because what I'm seeing consistently in both videos is she's much more comfortable using her hindquarter, right? It's a little bit more now that when she loses her hindquarter, particularly on the right hind, she
Right.
she goes to contract around the left side of her neck and her left
Uh-huh.
shoulder.
Uh-huh.
But she doesn't do it as drastically or
Right.
as consistently because you've got the hind legs in much better function than the last video.
Yeah.
Right now, she's going to lose her stability back there in the hindquarter, and she's going to try to compensate through the shoulders. So the key to the consistency with her right now is what you're doing to keep the neck shoulder alignment, left rein, right rein, mostly the left rein with her, both directions.
Mm-hmm.
What you're doing there is you're taking away her ability to compensate with the front end. which indirectly makes her continually use the hind end the way she's supposed to. So that's why it's important to step in with the rein soon with the right amount of force in the resistance, because that's what keeps her consistently using right hind, left hind, right hind, left hind, staying level, balancing the braking, pushing phases of the stride, because you're not allowing her to go somewhere else to find stability. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So what you're doing up at the front end with the T is you're saying, no, it stays dead straight, right? Whoops, hang on.
Well, yeah, well, that was the end of it because we stopped on purpose. So I said that was good because that halt was one that I asked for.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, that's why I went, done, get off. Yeah, because I had asked for that. And it's interesting because I thought, oh, we should look at, I wish we had a video from last night. We should look at that one because we got so far ahead. It's actually better for me to look at this one because we're going to hit this part again. You know what I mean? So we need to be able to work through
Yes.
this video because, oh, it's going to come again.
Yeah.
I think, last night was so different than this ride we just looked at. So different. But it's going to happen again where I get frustrated, all this other stuff. And so it's so good to look at this one still.
Right. So let's look at this other one really quickly.
Okay.
And
this wasn't so good. This is the one before. This is the first one.
This was the one before it. But here you can see the same thing. The collapsing here is making you contract. The collapsing in the upper abs, you're contracting through the shoulders a lot, and you're doing an amazing job of holding yourself with your back muscles.
Mm-hmm.
But you see how hard they're working.
Yeah.
And because they're overworking, there's a tiny bit of instability rocking in the upper body.
In the upper, yeah.
And now she's starting to push you up on the left seat bone.
Yep, yep.
So you want to watch both seat bones and both shoulders as she gets better and better at supporting herself with her hindquarter. It's going to shift left to right. So 99% of the time, off the track thoroughbreds, I can almost guarantee, are going to underuse the right hind, overuse the left front.
Uh-huh.
So that's the pattern I'm still seeing the most as you come around on turns.
Yeah.
But like right here where I paused it, you see she's starting to push up on your left seat bone on a left turn.
Yeah.
And what happens is, as you really tucked into resisting the problem, the upward force of when she was underusing the right hind, you've equalized the hind legs, but overall her engagement still needs more work.
Mm-hmm.
So when the hind legs are more equal, but they're not really fully engaged, you're still going to get muscular contraction on the left side of the back, the right side of the back.
Yeah. And you can still see, even though somebody would say, oh, she's level there, I feel and still see she's tight in the neck.
Oh yeah, you can see all this muscle tension in the neck.
You can see, so it's deceptive to think, oh, she's long and level there, and I know she's not. You know what I mean?
Right, because the energy of the neck is still actually coming towards you. She's beginning to lengthen it away. Yep. And this was the video I watched first before our meeting. And this was where you're getting it, but she's having a hard time suppling the muscles. Yeah. Even though you've got her there, like that is truly long and level. You see the neck.
Right there, yeah, I got it.
Yeah. But so she's very gingerly stretching. These are her own carrot stretches while you're riding her. Yeah. Right? She's letting it go. Yeah. But you see there is a great example of where you rock a little bit as she lets go, because she's getting unstable as she lets go of her muscles being the primary stabilizing use of her body. There's going to be a little instability there. Yeah. And it rocks you a tiny bit because your upper abs don't support you. Your arms are short. The reins are too long. Yeah. And all of what we talked about, you see it. But she is genuinely, you're getting it. And very genuinely, she's concentrating as hard as she can to really lengthen the muscles, to really let go of the shortening and all of that associated pain. There's the left seat bone,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So just watch
That's
that,
it.
because you've gotten the right hind working a lot better, which is why you don't have to bend her neck anymore. It's
Mhm.
just little adjustments to keep the neck straight. But as you get there, that's also going to mean, okay, it's not always going to be your right seat bone.
Yeah,
Sometimes it could be the left. She's not always going to push on the left shoulder. Sometimes it'll be the right. So right there, she pushes a little on the right shoulder. Yeah. Yes. Very good. Very good. Yeah. And when you nail it, you see she stays long and level because mostly her muscles are not fully ready to really become supple.
mhm.
And so sometimes her long and level is exactly what you are looking for, and sometimes it's not. And I think,
Right, yep,
yeah,
yes.
because she's not making huge variances in the changes between a little bit of extension and beginning to change the direction of her spine towards flexion.
Yep.
So, like there, she just changed 3 times. There is good, that's long and level. There is not. Then she starts, there it is, it's good, right? There, she's going out a little through the left shoulder, now the right shoulder. Now she contracts the neck, now the right shoulder. Yep, left shoulder. Yeah. And there at halt, she goes, only at halt can I sort of lengthen my neck and back muscles that much right now. So the ride you're describing, where everything went to shit, which was after this ride, I think what was happening is she was finally getting more comfortable with really letting go of the chronic tension and finding more length and more length through her muscles in her back, her neck, her hindquarter. That's going to create a window of massive instability, which is going to make her fearful. She'll be on hyper alert because in this video, which was the 5th, today's the 15th, 10 days ago, you were getting really close.
Mhm.
This is really good. And you see where she's exploring that more and more. Then she feels her own contraction. You see these little muscles bulging out.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah. Then she lets it go, but she can't let it go dramatically. She lets it go a little. She tightens a little. She lets it go a little, like there, she lets it go. But you can see how tight that upper neck is.
Yep,
But she doesn't, she really physically can't really go much longer in her muscles right now in this video than what she's giving you. And it's interesting if you kind of just take a general look at your body and her body. And then let me see if I can switch back to the other video. Because what you're seeing in the first 5 minutes of this video is basically the whole video.
right.
It gets better as you go, but
But
you're getting it in the first 5 minutes. It's just the discoveries you made have longer arms with shorter reins to give more rapid resistance, as well as increase the magnitude of resistance to match the magnitude of force. And so you figured that out. We talked today about your upper abdominal wall supporting your uprightness. So you can let go a little more through the back muscles and the shoulder muscle, all the muscles around the shoulders and chest.
Mhm.
But if you just look at her use and her muscles in this video on the 5th, then I'm going to stop it and see if I can. Let me see if I can go back to this video. Nope. Hang on.
The ninth, right at the top. If you click on the tab at the top,
There we go.
there you go.
So this one, I hear it, but I don't see it.
I don't see the bottom, like clicking on the, is there a bottom? No.
Okay, let me close it and do it again.
Okay.
I have to keep pulling it down because when the annotation tools come up, I can't see anything. So that was the second video.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So let's just look at that quickly. And you see already she's much more forward,
Yeah.
much more supple. She's much softer. And so
Yeah.
this was on the 9th. So that's 4 days after the first video, the other video we looked at. And you can see that suppleness is starting to take hold in her body. And there's a little bit more forwardness to her movement. Instead, the stiffness really shows in that video compared to this video. You see the suppleness is starting to come through.
I think of the term that we used years ago. The throughness is starting to, I'm feeling more of that.
Yeah.
Like even though it may be a slower cadence, we're walking slow, I could just feel it in her body, more of the suppleness and the throughness.
Yeah. And you can see it in her strides. So comparing, I can't do it side by side, but comparing, just quickly looking at the last video to this video, it's an obvious difference when you compare them. It's gradual because that's only a few days apart.
Right.
When you look at the other video compared to this video, you see that suppleness is taking hold in her body. And what's interesting, in the first video, her ears and her attention was on you 100% of the time. What's correlating is as the suppleness is coming through her body and she's more forward, she has more forward energy, not a lot more speed.
Right.
Definitely more forward energy. She's also in this video looking around more often. And then what you described, so this is on the 9th. So then it was what, on the 12th, you said everything went to shit? Or the 13th.
13th. Oh, the worst.
Tuesday. So the 13th, everything went to shit, but you were on your way there, right? And so here she might be asking for more of that support in this ride. She's starting to ask for it. So the second she gets distracted, like she usually does it here, right there, I would give her quite a strong resistance on the left rein. And you get there, but you get there in about 5-6 strides.
Yeah, right.
If she's reacting faster and more violently, you need to get there sooner. Your timing on that correction was beautiful because you didn't rush, you got there. But if she were looking away with more force, more intensity, then I'm going to need to be faster in my response with more intensity. So your magnitude and the direction was right on target for what she did here. But what you're describing in the ride that went to shit, you didn't change, but she did. So you have to adapt. If she's,
I kept thinking, what am I not doing? I mean, what is this crazy?
It was just the timing and the feel. And that's where humans are a lot slower to adapt than a horse.
Now, one of the things about this video, it began 2 minutes after she had one of her biggest spooks in 6 months. It was a legitimate spook, raccoons in that far end. If you're looking at this video at the canal on the left, there was a big crack in the trees, and I gave that, I mean, it was a legitimate spook. She got right back to, I mean, this is 2 minutes, this video started. You would never have guessed she had the biggest spook of her 6 months when this started. So I was all proud of her for that.
Very proud. And that, again, is part of, there's going to be a window, which was your bad ride, when she's feeling unstable throughout the transition of moving from muscular energy as her stabilizing use of her body to a coordination of the skeleton becoming the stabilizing force of her body. When she really lets go of that muscle use, she's going to get insecure because she feels the instability. So her reactions to nothing going on around you are going to be fast and strong. And so that's where we have to adapt our rein support. You've got the right area of the body. You're matching, when she's sort of working with you, you're matching the magnitude really well, the timing and the feel. But if she amps up the game, you got to amp up with her.
Right.
And as soon as there's just more energy or things happen faster, that's when we start pulling and losing control of our body. It's just faster. It's just faster with more force. And so if you take a deep breath, balance yourself, and go, okay, she can be really fast and she can have a lot of force. You're just going to match that with your resistance.
Yeah.
So if it happens fast and it's a 10 on the scale of 0 to 10, you just go, okay, I can do this really fast at a 10. And then you go, can I do it really fast at a 10 without creating a backwards force or a new force? Can I just resist what she's giving me at a 10, happening every 2 seconds? That's very fast and very heavy. Yeah, we could do that if we think of it that way. But what happens is it triggers our instinct. So it triggers us to pull backwards. It triggers us to react. It triggers us to lose our balance. That's where the problem is. It's not that the horse does it. It's the problem is in how we react to how they do it.
Mm-hmm.
And rarely just, she gives you great private lessons because she keeps telling you, you got to adapt more, Laurie. You got to adapt faster. I'm changing faster. And she's a very, very sensitive horse. So you really got to keep up with her. Yeah, which is great. But well done.
Yeah, and in fact, I just started, I'm halfway through your communication write-up, the one, our most recent lesson, the actual write-up with the video. And it is so well done. And I sent it to Bob, and Bob had we both had a big talk about communication. He gets it. I'm like, he gets it. And this is a sensitive horse. And he's like, you don't have to do much, in a sense of, she doesn't need kicking and going forward, because we know what that creates.
So what I saw with Tom Dorrance and truly masterful horse people, what they're able to do, that'll be a lifelong journey. It's my goal before I die, is every horse has kind of a frequency and an energy in how they like to communicate.
Yeah.
Just like we do.
People.
When you and I talk, we blah, 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 because that's a matching frequency. It's easy to talk to you because we have a similar frequency and vibration to how we speak, right? But if you think about speaking with someone who's very slow with how they talk, I find myself wanting to fill in their sentence all the time because it's a different frequency. And what really super masterful horsemen do is they can communicate with the horse. They instantly can tap into, and if we put it in terms of direction, magnitude, and frequency, those are all just laws of motion, right? If we talk about force, direction, magnitude, and frequency are just describing forces. When we can go in and match what is the way the horse likes to do it, it's not necessarily how we like to do it. But if we can adapt ourselves, some horses want the corrections to be very slow. Others want them very fast. That's the frequency. Some want you to increase the magnitude slowly. Some want you to do it quickly. Again, that's how much force, right? And we hold back. We go, this is the amount of force I'm comfortable with.
Right.
And that's our maximum. We call it a 10. And some horses go, oh, honey, that's barely a 2. You're going to need more than that, right? Or some people approach and they go, my way of speaking is a 10, right? All this intensity. And the horse goes, ooh,
You're yelling at me.
I'm not quite on board with that energy behind the language. So we can drive some of our horses crazy because we just talk too loud, right? Or we talk too slow, or we talk too fast. Right. That's how the communication plays into it, and how controlling our bodies and then feeling the horse. The horse is constantly communicating to us, usually through frustration and bad behavior, that what we're doing, the way we're communicating, is not working for them.
Right.
So it's not the damn gate, and it's not the soccer players, and it's not the raccoons in the forest, although horses spook, right? It's like when they lose their focus on the rider, they're telling us we're not interesting, right? So we need to change. Do we need more force, less force? Maybe it's not that. Maybe we need to be quicker in our communication. Maybe we need to be slower in our communication. Maybe we need to just be more stable because we're adding more force and more words to the conversation than we think we are.
And it's a great point, because I know when I get on the saddle, when I'm on the mounting block, I'm like, okay, we'll just take about a 5-minute warm up, just whatever that is, right? Just a 5-minute warm up. She's like, well, okay, fine. She's actually needing, in an appropriate, she says, I need a 30-second, you need to get it right off the mounting block. You know, it's not a, let's just cruise to see how you're feeling. She actually, now that I'm getting, the timing is going to be quicker. She does better when you start more correctly off the mounting block.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? She's like, I don't need this 10 minutes of warm up for you to get, then you get your act together.
Right.
She needs it like the shorter rein, longer arms right off the bat.
And the stability of, think of your trunk.
Yeah.
Think of your chest and your arms as branches.
Right.
And you're solidifying your trunk right off the bat.
Right off the bat. It's
right
not.
And that's why rarely landed in the category of difficult horse, is because she needs that from the rider right away. Now, you've built in a huge understanding with her. She kind of graciously allows you your 5 or 10 minutes that you need.
Right.
You know,
Right.
she's not going to hurt you in those 5 or 10 minutes, but she's like,
yeah,
can we just get on with things?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of, or she'll just go outside of the arena. Head will go here, head will go there, up an extension. But yeah, so I'm getting better at, we need to do it right away. I mean, it's just.
And the really hard truth of it is, if we can laugh at ourselves and we're not offended by it, the hard truth of the horse being distracted is that we're not interesting enough to listen to.
Oh, fine.
Yeah. So I go, how do we become more dynamic and more interesting?
Yeah.
That's a change in the feel, the timing, the balance, right? So that's why everything is feel, timing, balance. That's our communication.
Mm-hmm.
And when she's distracted, we could say she's feeling unsafe, but she's feeling unsafe because she also doesn't feel connected to you. Right. Or maybe they feel safe and they're just safely kind of looking around, being distracted, and they act a bit bored.
Right.
I go, that's because you're not saying anything that's interesting to them.
Yeah, that sounds right. Sounds about right.
That's the hard truth.
Yep.
And I go, I had to swallow that so many times with Prima. And she's like, yeah, you don't get it yet. I'll tolerate the ride, but when are you going to get your act together? Yeah. And then when I got better and I thought a different way, even if I was still struggling, Prima would give me the attention, right? Or even young horses I start, I know I'm not being interesting enough from their perspective if I'm not getting their attention.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
Even if they're like worried about the environment, I have to become more interesting than that. I have to become the provider of the feeling of stability, which is also safety. Mm-hmm. The feeling of comfort, which is also safety. So the onus is on the rider if we look at it that way, and it causes us to explore our use and our communication more. So that's why I love horses like Rarely, but she's picky. She's very particular, and she's highly sensitive, and she's athletic as all get out. And that's what kind of put her in the difficult horse category. But I love the progress you're making. Absolutely love, love, love it.
All right. So we're going to take this to the barn tonight, and we'll see what day 2 brings.
Yeah. And if Bob can videotape you, just play that, even if it's like a 2-minute video.
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing, just to see, because for us, a minute video is a big window to see what's going on. Like a 1-minute video is even good, but 2 minutes, I want to see her consistency and see if we got it the second time.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Kirsten.
Alrighty, I'm gonna